Okay, it's time for you to do your individual activity. Now, this activity is all about elevation. So in our previous learning, we were learning about temperature and how temperature can be a positive or a warm temperature or a negative temperature, which would be a cooler temperature. Now, a location's elevation is determined by its distance from sea level. There's a really cool video, which I might post in one of the links, about how we can never really determine where sea level is around the world. It's not a constant, but for the purpose of our activity, we are going to say that sea level is at 0 meters. And that's really important. All of our number lines, whenever we are working with rational numbers or integers, we should always have a 0 on our number line, because it's going to tell us which direction is positive integers and which direction is going to have our negative integers. So make sure that your number line has a 0 meters marked on it. So what can we tell? Well, anything above 0 in a positive direction is going to have an elevation that is positive. Anything below 0 is going to have a negative elevation. All right, or we might say a depth or something similar, but 0 is really important. So make sure you've marked your 0 on your number line. Okay, so look closely at the elevation of these cities and answer the questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label with a number each of these cities, and I want to put them on my number line because I can pretty much be sure that my questions are going to ask me to use this number line. And so let's start off with Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it has an elevation of 320 above sea level. So here's 0. I'm going to put Harrisburg about here. I'm just going to label it number 1, and I'm going to say that that's 320 feet. Sorry, I made a mistake here. That should say feet. 0 feet. I'll fix that. Okay, so our second city here, Bethel, Indiana, or Indianapolis, I'm not sure, maybe you can tell me, is at 1,211 feet above sea level. It's a positive elevation. So I'm going to put that probably about, let's say about here. Number 2, I'm just going to label it 1,211 feet. Okay, number 3 here, Denver, Colorado, is at 5,280 feet above sea level. I'm going to put him all the way at the top here at 5,280 feet. Coachella is at negative 22, so now I need to go below 0. I'm going to put Coachella about here. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, team, but it does need to be relevant to everything else. Number 5, Death Valley is at negative 282. I'm going to put him about there. Negative 282 feet. And New York City is at 33 feet. So I'm going to put him quite close to 0 here. 33 feet. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be related. And Miami, Florida is at 0 feet. So that's going to go right there. Okay, at sea level. So on the list of cities, which city has the second highest elevation? Well, let's take a look. And the highest elevation means a positive elevation. So it's number 2 here, which is going to be the second highest elevation is 1,211, which is going to be Bethel, Indiana. Okay, how would you describe the elevation of Coachella in relation to sea level? So Coachella we labeled number 4, and it was negative 22. So in relation to sea level, which is 0, it is 22 feet below sea level. How would you describe the elevation of Death Valley, California in relation to sea level? Death Valley we labeled number 5, and it is below sea level, 282 feet below sea level. 282 feet below sea level. If you're standing on a beach right next to the ocean, what is your elevation? Well, if you're right next to the ocean, you're at sea level. And we can see here that Miami, Florida, in question 5, is also at sea level. Okay, the last question here says, a city has a higher elevation than Coachella, California. Select all numbers that could represent the city's elevation. All right, so Coachella is at negative 22 feet. It's right there. And any city that has a higher elevation is going to be in a positive direction from Coachella there. All right, so it's going to be any city that could be in a positive direction from Coachella. So let's take a look. Negative 11 feet, would it be in a positive direction? Well, negative 11 is going to probably be about there. So, whoops. So yes, negative 11 could be one of the cities higher than Coachella. Negative 35 feet. Well, that means I have to come 35 feet down from sea level, and it's going to go past 22. It's probably going to be about there. So no, that cannot be higher than Coachella. Negative 24 feet. So I start at 0 and I have to come down 24. So remember, moving down, we're getting further away from 0, which means our elevation is lower, and it's going to be lower as well. So no, it cannot be higher. Negative 8 feet. That means I'm just 8 feet away from 0. That's going to be even closer there. So yes, that could be one. And 12 feet, well, 12 feet positive is going to be above 0. So that's also one. So we have 3 options. Okay, how did you go? Make sure you have your answers and be ready to share them.